There was always going to be a moment when the electric transition reached the top of the luxury hierarchy. Not the experimental flagship, not the tech-forward alternative, but the actual establishment itself. The 2026 electric S-Class feels like that moment for Mercedes-Benz. For decades, the S-Class has been less about innovation in isolation and more about defining what normal luxury should look like in 5 years. So the move into full electrification here doesn't feel like a radical leap. It feels like an inevitability, almost overdue. What's immediately noticeable is how deliberately this car avoids drama. Unlike many electric flagships that lean heavily into futuristic identity, this one seems determined to maintain continuity. It doesn't scream EV in the way some luxury electric sedans do. Instead, it feels like a natural extension of the S-Class philosophy, progress wrapped in restraint. Out on the road, the experience is unmistakably electric, but also unmistakably S-Class. The power delivery is smooth to the point of being almost invisible. There's no theatrical surge, just a seamless build of speed that feels detached from effort. It's quick, certainly, but the car seems uninterested in reminding you of that fact. What stands out most is how the electric drivetrain enhances the core character rather than redefining it. The silence isn't presented as novelty. It's treated as refinement. Ride quality benefits enormously from the absence of mechanical vibration, and combined with advanced suspension tuning, the car achieves a level of composure that feels almost detached from the road surface. In many ways, that's the electric S-Class's strongest point, serenity. There's a calmness here that goes beyond comfort. It's not just about soft suspension or quiet insulation, it's about the way every input feels filtered through layers of engineering. Steering, acceleration, braking, all of it is smooth, consistent, and predictable. You never feel like you're asking the car to work harder than it wants to. However, that same composure introduces what may also be its biggest weakness. Engagement is not part of the equation. This isn't a car that invites you to drive for the sake of driving. Even compared to its combustion predecessors, the electric version feels more distant. The connection between driver and machine is intentionally softened, perhaps in the name of luxury. But for those who appreciate the subtle feedback that used to define flagship sedans, the experience may feel slightly anesthetized. It's less about interaction and more about transportation, albeit at the highest level. Inside, the transition to electrification has allowed for small but meaningful changes. The packaging feels more open, the floor flatter, the space more usable. But what's interesting is that the design avoids turning into a technology showcase. Yes, there are displays and digital interfaces, but they don't dominate the environment. An unexpected detail is how intentionally analog certain elements feel. Physical touch points, switches, materials, textures, still matter here. In a segment where many rivals are abandoning tactility in favor of screen-based minimalism, this car seems to resist that trend. That choice feels quietly significant. From a market perspective, the electric S-Class isn't trying to compete on spectacle. It's not chasing the flash of newer luxury EV entrants. Instead, it's reinforcing its traditional role, stability at the top. For buyers who want electrification without cultural disruption, this approach will likely be appealing. Range and charging capabilities appear competitive, though not revolutionary. Again, the theme persists, competence over extremity. The car doesn't attempt to redefine expectations. It aims to meet them consistently. Interestingly, the weight, often a concern in large electric vehicles, is handled with surprising grace. You're aware of the mass in tight maneuvers, but once underway, the car carries itself with the kind of poise that has always defined the S-Class lineage. Perhaps the most telling aspect of the electric S-Class is how unremarkable it feels in the best sense of the word. Not because it lacks innovation, but because it integrates that innovation so completely into the driving experience that it becomes background rather than foreground. In a market where electrification often arrives wrapped in disruption, this car represents something different: continuity. And that may ultimately be its most defining quality.